talking to Phil James from Consult Hyperion, and he's the project manager for the DirectGov pilot to use the Visa Code Sure for access to UK government programs. So can you give us a little rundown of what sort of the concept of this is?
Yeah, sure. Visa have a product called Visa Code Sure, which is an authentication service built into a card. People may be familiar with Pin Sentry, which is a little device that you would plug your chip and pin card into to generate one-time passcodes. Or the HSBC do a little calculator type device to generate the same sort of thing to securely log you into websites. CodeSure builds that technology actually into the card itself. Now Visa, along with Technical Strategy Board, in a sort of private-public partnership, we're looking at the idea of leveraging that sort of technology in order to generate authentication codes which would log you into government services. So we're looking to get a trustworthy.
So in terms of government services like housing benefits and student loans and pensions. And
yes,
stuff?
it's basically the sort of services you see on DirectGov. Now, a lot of services that are available on DirectGov are effectively download the relevant form, fill it in, and then send that in to be processed manually in the usual way. What they really want to do, of course, is extend online government services more generally. And one of the things that gets in the way of that is trustworthy enrolment. People don't want to be enrolling in lots and lots of different government services, in lots of different websites for different government services. So the idea is that CodeSure would be able to authenticate you, use your credentials as having a bank account to authenticate yourself into online government services.
So you have to have a bank account, so it's sort of using the Visa ID to identify you on the government website.
Sort of. What actually happened, we decided to look at this and to try to put together a proof of concept model to show how existing technology might allow this sort of service to actually happen. We then talked to DirectGov and learned about their vision in terms of how DirectGov's services could be offered in the future, in terms of having a centralised system which profiles different government services, identifies different types of authentication levels required, finds relevant different possible institutions that could provide identity services, and then go also to go on and find something they called attribute providers, which is a dreadful piece of jargon, but basically means try and collect some data on individuals that may be available in the public domain in order to pass through to those government services using a control and consent user interface. So everything would always happen with the full knowledge and consent of a user. So it gets away from the idea of using a centralised government database. It's more of a distributed system.
So so you guys put together a bunch of focus groups of sort of real-world users recently. So what was some of the comeback from some of those focus groups?
When we built this thing, which does actually sort of emulate the sort of structure I've just been talking about, what we were looking to find, of course, most importantly, was what do people think of the idea of using a bank card as an identity token for government services? Because we were a little nervous of that, of course. And I guess the encouraging thing was that we found it didn't bother them at all.
I thought bank was a four-letter word now.
Well, another slightly interesting thing was that they tended to trust government online services more than bank online services anyway.
And you mentioned people also trusted Visa over the bank and the government side, or?
Well, Visa is a very generally recognised logo, isn't it? It's there to handle many relationships. It's like a household name, really. I guess people would trust their own bank too, though.
So was there a bit of feedback on the usability of the card, or?
Yes, because the card has a rather simple keyboard on the back of it. The keyboard technology has been improving. It's still a little difficult because the technology at the moment relies on sort of a pinch action rather than a press action, and people are just not used to that type of a contact. So that's been taken on board, and that keyboard is being changed to a more touch-sensitive technology. So yes, that's one of the technical lessons that's been learned. But generally, as I say, the idea and the security that is clearly offered from the token and the way it interacts with the website was generally very favourably received by members of the public that this has been tested on.
So now that you've had sort of the trial and the focus groups, what's next for this project?
Well, this has gone into Visa's melting pot, for want of a better word, in terms of the way forward, the strategic role that this offering might take in terms of the CodeSure product in general. We've only just finished the project a little while ago, so that's still within Visa, waiting for what decision they may make.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, it's a pleasure.